can everyone see the screen that I have?
Yes.
Thank you. And I want to say good morning to each and every one of you again. And what we want to be reviewing today is the end of year summary reconciliation form that you're going to be submitting, and also hopefully another way or an easier way that you are able to keep this information in one place. And the reason for this form is we're just want to get a bird's eye view of how you financially manage your program and what areas we need to continue to work on and to help you get there. Okay, and this is the form that we will be sending in. As you heard earlier, Ms. Menders said we changed our name, so this form should read FBC, Summer Break Cafe, Annual Year-End Budget Summary Form. And what that entails is I'm going to do this in kind of a way that may take some time, but if you have any questions while I go through it, just ask them and we'll see if we can get them answered. I'm going to take everything just line by line, as if no one know or have ever done this form before, so we can all get it right and all be on the same page. First, on line 4, we have the institution name, the agreement number, the federal ID number, the program year, the number of sites, and the version of the form. Line 5 and 6, you will see the institution name, the FS number. And if you don't know what the FS number is, you can always find it on your sponsor application. You can find your federal ID number on your W-9, and the program year that we operated, which is 2021, and the number of sites that we operated this year was 4. And the version of the form is going to be the original one that you send in, or if we have to send it back and you have to amend it, and then you would circle amended form. If the first form that you send is going to be your original one, and then the second or the third or fourth one that you have to send is going to be the amended form.
Hey, Carl, if you have a phone up on the screen, I cannot see it.
Do I have a phone number?
No. Do you have the form on the screen?
Yes, ma'am.
That's what I'm saying. This is Pam with Serenity. I cannot see it. The only thing I can see is your initials.
Can everyone else see the screen, or it's just Pam?
I can see it. I can see it.
I can see it.
I can see it.
I don't know how else we can.
You hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay, I'm not sure, Pam. It may be just an individual thing. Carl, can you email it to her, maybe?
Yeah, I can. Atlantis.
Yes.
Can you go into the O Drive and pull that form and email it to her? Pull that.
And I was to Pam Perry, right?
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
no problem.
And she'll email it to you, Pam, and you can just follow along from the paper.
Okay.
Okay, we have line 8, which is going to be your actual revenue that you're getting for that calendar year, which is 2021. Line 10 through line 9 will be your prior year excess fund. We want to encourage you to put if you have if you had previous year excess funds, or if you had a previous year deficit, you want to put those numbers there, that amount there. On this particular form, our sponsor, we had a prior year $12,524.85 excess funds. So even if you had a deficit of 10,000 or a deficit of 5,000, we need to know that, because we need to maybe there's some areas that we can work on to help you get to where you can balance the budget. Line 10 through 22 is your reimbursements. Excuse me, line 10 through 21 is your reimbursements for the months that you're operating. In this case, this sponsor operated June and July only because of the fact that they had to cut off because school started a little earlier for them and they could not operate it in August because school had already started back. And that's something else you want to take a look at it when when you're doing your budget for August. You want to make sure that you budget for August up until the first day of school and operate up until that point. And line 22, you will have your other program income, any other income that comes into your program from other sources. And we want you to list that also. And what that is going to do is compile your program, your total program income for that program year. And in this situation, because of the $12,524.85 and the $37,948.55 and the $24,979.75, there was a program income of $75,453.15 for this particular sponsor. And next, we're going to go into the administrative and operational expenses on how they spent those funds that they received. If you have any questions, yes, ma'am.
I'm sorry for speaking up. This is Vanolia Jordan at Kings Court. I'm not able to chat, but I have a question about that total from all of our federal funding. Is that for other funding that is just related to our food program, or would that be everything? Like if we run the ABC program and other federal funding, would that be a total of everything that the organization gets?
Now, this is only for summer food. Because this is the only program that we will be concerned about. And that's why you want to kind of keep those funds separate because, because of the summer food, that's the only funding that we're looking at when we come out to review. Okay.
Hi, this is Misty with the Low Country Food Bank. I have a question on the other program income. What other income would there?
That could be like, donations or anything like you have someone donating toward your summer food program.
Okay. Thank you.
And any other type income that could come in for that program that's other than donations or anything like that. Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Line 24, as we said, we're going to get into the administrative and operating expenses on how they broke this down and spent those funds. On line 26, you have column A, which is your budgeted cost, and column B, which is your actual allowable costs. Line A, these are actually, this is your budget. You want to mirror this budget directly from your sponsor application. Whatever is on your sponsor application should mirror what you have here. And in this case, you can see that that their salaries and fringe benefits was $55,280, and of that $5,280 they budgeted, they actually spent $5,200. The same thing with rent and office space, office supplies, administrative mileage, bookkeeping and accounting, printing, postage, telephone, any line item that you have in your sponsor application, you want to list that line item here and give us the exact total of your budgeted costs for 2021 and your actual allowable cost for 2021. Okay. And next we have our operational expenses. First we have our food costs with vended, and then our food costs self-prep. And why I kind of do it this way is because some sponsors are vended, some are self-prep, some are vended and self-prep. So you want to be able to differentiate between what you're spending on vended food and what you're spending on self-prep if you're vended and self-prep. Okay. And I just give an example of vended and self-prep. If you go to a Subway on Friday and get a full meal from Subway to give to some of your sites, now that becomes a vended meal because you're getting a full meal from Subway. Even if your application said that you are a self-prep sponsor, but now you become a vended and self-prep sponsor because you're getting a full meal from Subway. Now, if you go to Subway and just get sandwiches, but you add milk and the other components to that, that is a self-prep meal. Okay, and you will see that here. This is a self-prep sponsor totally. They budgeted $16,259.59, and they actually spent $17,678.06. And you would pull this information directly from your sponsor application, your budgeted cost directly from that application. And at the end of the summer, when you have looked over your general ledgers and everything and see what you actually spent, and you're going to put that amount there in the actual allowable cost. And here you will get a budgeted total and a actual total. And then what we did here was took your budgeted cost minus the actual allowable cost and give you an example of how your program did for that summer. In this particular case, this particular sponsor was $719.75 over budget. But it's not, that's not a bad, that's not something that's really bad because they're actually doing really good. And the next line, 53, your total program income minus your total allowable expenses equal excess minus program income after expenses. So what we do is take this line here, and this form is already set up to pre-calculate all this information for you if all the formulas are in the right place. You had a total program income of $75,000. They spent $35,557 in expenses, and so after expenses we had a $39,895 overage. This is excess funds, and this $39,895.73 should go here for 2022. And line 55 says unused reimbursements will be used for next year's summer food program service program. Please attach a detailed plan of how the funds will be used. If you're going to participate in 2022 and use those funds for your next year's summer program, you want to check that box and attach a detailed plan of how the funds will be used. Line 56 is the unused reimbursement will be used for another child nutrition program. You want to name that program, and you also want to attach a detailed plan on how that money is going to be spent on your next year's program, because we want to see that review that if we should have to come out to do a review of how you spent. We need to see how you spent the summer food funds for the another child nutrition program and how much of it you spent. And if you're not returning to the summer food program next year, you would check that block. Okay. And on line 59 said, I certified that the above is a correct accounting of disbursements of summer food service program funds, and all documentation for the above information is on file and available for review. Even though you're sending us a snapshot of this information but you should have documentation to back up this if someone should come out to review your financial information on file. And you would have the signature of the person, the sponsor, director, or who managed the program, and the signature of the person that does the financial auditing for you. Okay? And then you would sign it and date it and send it to us. Now, also, this particular sponsor, they kind of did a really good plan here. And I like this one, so I'm going to use theirs. This is the detailed plan for the use of excess funds, excess program income for 2022. This is how they're going to use. This is how they're going to use this $39,895.73. So our plans for the excess funds are to use them to totally fund next year's summer food service program without having to receive any advances or loans as we have to do in the past. So what they're going to do is take those funds, instead of asking for advances or going to take out loans, they're going to use those funds now to fund that program up front to get them started. Now we will be purchasing more equipment to help store and transport food or meals. Some of this equipment will be, but not limited to, more insulated bags for cold and hot food transport, more coolers, more PPE equipment if necessary, and anything else we need. We will rent at least one more vehicle, maybe two, to help ease the transport of meals and day-to-day errands. We'll also hire more personnel, staff to help with food prep and meal delivery. If things go back to normal, then more site supervisors will be needed. That means there will be adding on more sites. We will reach out to at least one more local restaurant to see if they can participate in helping us to incorporate another hot meal. So they're going to invest in food quality, which is generally more expensive than cold meals. We'll increase our budget for more advertising to better get the word out. So they're going to do more and better advertising for the program. Incorporate more flyers, more banners, more media, press releases. Also, if allowed, we would like to raise the stipends for the entire staff. Now, stipends is for federal funded programs. It's not allowed. It has to be like a salary, or it can't be. You can't pay them stipends. So we want to strict that word out of this document. Okay. Finally, if there are any unforeseen emergencies, expenses that may occur, then we will use the funds for that as well. And each budget should have a contingency, an emergency fund for anything that is out of the norm that arises. So this sponsor has a good plan for next year for those $39,895.73. But when we come out to, go out to review, we have to see what amount he placed in each one of these line items and how he spent those funds toward those line items. Okay. Is there any questions that anyone have? We have another form that we want to kind of go over before 10. If there's any questions that we can answer, or if you can't answer them, we'll take them down and get back with you. So hearing none. Can everyone see this form, this Excel sheet?
Yes. Yes.
Okay. What we have done here at the Summer Break Cafe is we have kind of extended this Excel sheet to kind of capture your whole summer and put it in one big snapshot. So when you look at this, or when we look at this, we can get a bird's eye view of how your summer program done, and it's an easier way. I think it's an easier way to kind of do it, because we want to encourage you to use this Excel sheet. Now, I know most of you have your own general ledgers and your own programs that you use. But if you also use this as a backup, it will make it a lot easier for us when we come out to review, and we will spend a lot less time with you. First, we have our cover sheet, which just contains the sponsor's name, their agreement number, and the year that we are looking at. It's 2021. Here you see the prior excess funds for year 2020, which is $12,064.85. And this particular sponsor did not operate. They did not operate June, January, February, March, April, May. But they operated in June and July, and they did not operate in August, September, October, and November. They didn't take out any advances for this year, but they had a reimbursement in June for $20,165, and a reimbursement in July for $23,203. So that, and that's their total reimbursement, total income for 2021. The prior year expenses, June's reimbursement and July reimbursement. And here, what we are trying to do is trying to capture your day-to-day operations, of how you're spending the funds that you say that you're spending for summer food. Here we see we did not operate in January, we didn't operate in February, we didn't operate in March, April, May, June. Now, the reason that we extended this for 12 months is because of the pandemic. Usually, this form would only encompass June, July, and August, because that's a normal traditional summer. If we can ever get back to the traditional summer, then we can reduce or cut down on this form, for lack of all that detail. Here we have our organization's name, our agreement number, and our FS number. And you want to put that on each and every one of your sheets that you use. If you're going to operate June, July, and August, you want to put it on each one of your sheets. Then we have the date of the actual when the actual expense occurred. We have the payee or the vendor name that you paid it to. This could be anything here. It could be whether you paid by debit, whether you paid by check, whether it was an invoice, whether it was a bank draft. You want to list that information here. And like we were saying earlier, if you're a vendor sponsor, you want to place your vended food totals here. And if you self-prep, you want to place your self-prep totals here. And next we have our operational salaries, operational supplies and non-food, transportation of food, utilities, equipment, advertising, and others. These line items here, where we have your food purchases throughout your operation and administrative costs, you want to have that to mirror. Excuse me. You want to have that to mirror exactly what your program expenses are, and you will get that information from your budget that you upload into your sponsor application. Because if you don't mirror what you have on your budget, this form is not going to really do you any good, because your line items are going to be off. Okay. And June and July is just a capture of what you did in July. And August we didn't operate. September we didn't operate. October we did not operate. And November we did not operate. And in December we did not operate. And now here it just gives you a snapshot of what your income is for your program for the year. You know, we had that $12,064 for excess funds. And once you enter this information up front and on these pages, it's going to compile here for you. So it's like a one and done tool. Once you enter that information, it's done, and you have your whole summer captured, and you don't have to go back and do this at the end of the summer. Your reimbursements for the summer, you see that we had $43,068, and other income we had none, and your totally for the summer we had income of $55,432.85, and we derived at that from the prior excess funds from 2020 and the reimbursements for 2021. And that gave us a total program funds of $55,432.85. And this gives you kind of a snapshot of your administrative and operational costs. We had operational, we spent $29,106.82. Administratively, we spent $7,114.48. And totally, we spent $36,221.30, minus our reimbursement, and that left us with a balance of $7,146.70 in our bank for next year's program expenses. And how we get to this number, we just take our prior year expenses minus minus prior year income, excess income minus our expenses, and that gave us a year-to-date balance of $19,211.55 that we can carry over into the next year. Now, this particular thing is just a budget tracking tool that kind of helps you along the way, because if you're in the middle of July or in the middle of June and you want to know how much funds that you have in your budget for June left for the year, you can go to this form and it's going to give you an idea of what you have left to spend on that particular line item. This particular line item here was salaries and fringe benefits for $6,500. We spent $32.94 in June, $32.94 in July, and we kind of went over our budget by $88. But when you go over your budget, you can always look in other line items to pull that amount back into perspective. Okay, and this is just a bird's eye view to give you exactly how you're doing during the summer months. And all this information is going to compute or compile over when you're entering that information up front. Okay, and this information here, you're going to have to kind of enter it manually, because I mean, you have to find a way to pull that information directly from the your sponsor application. So you would have to go to your sponsor application and enter this information manually. Whatever line items you have on your budget on your application, those line items need to exist here. in order for the budget to work properly for you. And then with that said, and here with the form that we just went over, everything is going to compile over for you. And at the end of the summer, you're going to have your end of year summary form already done for you. All you got to do is submit it to us, because you're going to be compiling this data forward every time you make a transaction. Okay, and here we see that we have the total program excess funds of the $19,211.55, and that goes here for 2022. Those will be the excess program funds from 2021. And remember, you need to put in that detailed report of how you are going to spend these $19,211.55 for 2022.